This video introduces Jean-François Millet, a painter famous for his paintings of peasants. Coming from a farming family, he depicted farmers, farming villages, and the nature that surrounded them. Some of Vincent van Gogh's works were inspired by Millet's work, and inspired him to write repeatedly on the same themes. His depictions of peasant poverty were controversial in the French Salon. In this video, Millet's life and influences will be discussed, along with a selection of his best-known works. Millet was born in 1814 in the small village of Gruchy in the Normandy region of France. As the son of a farmer whose father, in addition to farming, occasionally engaged in drawing. Influenced by this, Millet familiarized himself with painting while assisting with farm work. When Millet was 18 years old, he drew a charcoal drawing of a hunched old man walking. And his parents were so impressed by the drawing that they sent him to an art school in Cherbourg, about 20 kilometers away. Thus, Millet left farming and embarked on the path of becoming a painter. Initially, he attended the studio of a painter named Mouchel. After his father's death in 1835, Millet briefly returned to his hometown. But, driven by his grandmother's strong desire, he went back to Cherbourg. There, he met Langlois, who recognized his talent, advised him to study under him, and recommended him for admission to the École des Beaux-Arts with a scholarship in 1837. However, Millet found it challenging to adapt to the dark, cloudy, and smoky city of Paris. And he struggled with his mentor at the École des Beaux-Arts. Despite learning from the renowned history painter Paul de la Roche, Millet didn't attend classes frequently. Instead, he spent time at the Louvre, studying and copying works by artists like Nicolas Poussin and Michelangelo. In 1839, Millet applied for the prestigious Prix de Rome, a career milestone for artists at the time, but failed to secure de la Roche's recommendation and faced rejection. This incident led him to leave the École des Beaux-Arts. As the 1840s progressed, Millet slowly gained recognition as a painter. In 1840, his portrait of a man earned him his first Salon entry. And he returned to Cherbourg. In 1841, Millet married his first wife, Pauline, and, having achieved success as a portrait painter, he and his wife returned to Paris in pursuit of further accomplishments. Unfortunately, due to the unsanitary conditions of Paris, Pauline contracted tuberculosis and passed away in 1844. Devastated by her death, Millet returned to Cherbourg. But in 1845, he went back to Paris after meeting Catherine Lemaire, who would become his second wife. During this period, Millet encountered fellow artists like Camille Corot and Henri Rousseau, who later became part of the Barbizon school. In 1847, his painting, Oedipus taken down from the tree, was selected for the Salon. In 1848, amidst the influence of the February Revolution, a salon without jury selection was held, and Millet's The Winnower was purchased by the government. In turn, he submitted Harvester's Resting, which earned him a government commission. In 1849, with the cholera epidemic in Paris, Millet, using the compensation from the government, moved with his family and friends to Barbizon. Thus, Barbizon became Millet's final residence. And the Barbizon School was born. This painting, exhibited in 1850, was one of Millet's early masterpieces. In the genre of peasant paintings, depicting farmers was one of his most famous themes, and he aimed to portray the inner lives of peasants in this work. Millet first presented this work in the Paris Salon in 1850. But it became the subject of controversy. Detailed depictions of the lowest class of poor peasants, as heroic subjects, were seen as a protest, and the paintings were thought to have political intentions. Poverty in rural France was a major problem at the time. And this painting was interpreted as a criticism of the wealthy bourgeoisie. This work was also criticized for being painted in thick layers of paint, which was contrary to the traditional drawing methods of the time. By the way, Vincent van Gogh was also greatly influenced by this theme of the Sower, and has created many works with the same theme. Van Gogh, like Millet, found beauty and dignity in the lowest strata of society and in everyday life. And he probably empathized with Millet in expressing this. The Gleaners, created in 1857, was also controversial and is also one of Millet's masterpieces. This painting is housed in the Orsay Museum. It's a very famous painting, so even if you've never been to the Orsay Museum, you've probably seen it at least once. First, let's get closer to the charm of this painting by taking a closer look at this painting by the Gleaners. Now let's take a look at the paintings. I see three women. All three are wearing similar clothes, but their hoods are different colors. From left to right: blue, red, and yellow. They are picking up wheat that has fallen in the field. If you look closely, you can see that each pose of the three women is one frame of a series of movements of picking up wheat. First, the woman wearing a blue hood in the back of the screen found wheat. The woman in the red hood in the middle picks up stalks of wheat. And the woman in the yellow hood pulls up her apron and uses it as her pocket to put the wheat she has picked up. Each of the three people holds a sheaf of wheat, which probably also has ears of wheat attached to it. When you look at this picture, you can feel the physical pain of the task of picking things up. Women's spines are already bent. The women who pick up stalks of wheat are wearing hoods, so you can't really see their faces. However, you can see that the profile of the woman in the foreground is tanned and completely black. The fashion in the 19th century was to show white skin. Bourgeois women in the cities avoided the sun as much as possible by using large hats and parasols, and even applied white powder. However, the women who picked up this wheat had to be exposed to direct sunlight all day long. I have one question for everyone. How many people are depicted in this picture? Is it 3 people? Please check out the background. You can see a large pile of straw in the upper left. There are people on top of the pile of straw. They are probably receiving it from below and stacking it on top of it. In the surrounding area, work is being carried out to load straw onto horse-drawn carriages. As you move to the center of the screen, you can see women carrying harvested wheat on their shoulders. Further behind them, you can see many farmers on their knees harvesting their crops. And on the right edge of the screen you can see a person riding a horse. Is this person a large landowner? It looks like he is giving instructions with his left hand. He is probably coordinating the work while supervising the sharecroppers. A large mansion can be seen further behind. This may be the mansion of a large landowner. Women picking wheat up in the foreground, and the people involved in the harvest in the background. Actually, these people are not farmers from the same class. The many farmers in the background are sharecroppers hired by large landowners. In other words, there are 3 types of farmers in this picture. One is a landowner who rode a horse. The second is the large number of farmers in the background, who are involved in the harvest. These people are hired by large landowners. They may not be wealthy, but their livelihood is guaranteed. And the third one is women picking up fallen gleanings. They are the poorest farmers. In Christian teachings, there was the idea that the ears that fell after the harvest should be distributed to the poorest farmers. This is from the Book of Ruth in the Old Testament. And this custom still existed in Millet's time. The three poorest women are placed in the center of the painting, and are depicted in the most prominent positions. On the other hand, the peasants and landowners in the background are depicted in a distant place. So small that you won't notice them unless you look closely. And a vast field is depicted between the two groups. This visually expresses that the three women are in a different position from other farmers, and are on the outskirts of society. Now, the fact that Millet painted peasants in rural areas had great significance in art history. At the time, the prevailing opinion in the French art world was that peasants should not be the subject. This was because there was a pervasive sense of value. That depicting fields and farmers was a low-quality painting. So what kind of paintings were considered to be of a high level? Paintings that featured Greek mythology, the Bible, or ancient history as themes were considered high-class paintings. At that time, it was thought that drawing scenes of ordinary life, and the scenery that could be seen in front of one's eyes was a low-quality painting. So Millet did something revolutionary in the world of painting. He not only made peasants the protagonists of his paintings, but also made the lowest class of peasants the protagonists. Furthermore, it represented those people in a dignified way. This was the newness of Millet's paintings. The Angelus is completed between 1857 and 1859. The painting depicts two peasants bowing in a field over a basket of potatoes to say a prayer. The Angelus, that together with the ringing of the bell from the church on the horizon marks the end of a day's work. Millet said, "The idea for the Angelus came to me because I remembered that my grandmother, hearing the church bell ringing while we were working in the fields, always made us stop work to say the Angelus prayer for the poor departed." Millet continued to face economic hardship until the 1860s. But by 1860, his financial situation stabilized. In 1864, his painting, Shepherdess with Her Flock, received acclaim at the Salon, earning him a first prize. The 1867 Paris Exposition, where Japan made its first exhibition and sparked the trend of Japanism, featured Millet's 9 works, including The Gleaners and The Angelus, establishing his reputation as a master at the age of 53. This painting was created in 1868. This is one of Millet's last works, and was commissioned by a person who was a patron of Henri Rousseau. The theme of the 4 seasons is a very traditional one, a motif drawn by various predecessors including Nicolas Poussin. Millet intentionally depicted nature in a bolder way in this work. This kind of expression is similar to that of Monet, an impressionist who was not yet known to the world at this time. Millet can be said to have played an essential role in the birth of Impressionism, which painted landscapes outside of the studio. Spring was completed in 1873, and the summer and autumn works were completed in 1874. But the winter work was left unfinished when he passed away. And this work is Hunting Birds at Night, a work he made just before his death. It was created based on the scenery that Millet experienced in his childhood. This is a scene in which a bird that has made a home in the trees during the night is blinded with a torch and hunted. Very dramatic scenes are depicted with strong contrasts of light and dark. This is an impressive work that captures the momentary movement of angels. as if they were fighting in nature. Millet suffered from migraines and rheumatism for many years. A condition he struggled with until shortly before his death, dying at the age of 61 at his home in Barbizon in 1875. So far, I have introduced Millet's life and masterpieces. During this period, new trends appeared in the French art world that changed the era one after another. I would like to touch on them on another occasion. Thank you for watching until the end. See you again in the next video.